So Elon Musk is going to be doing this like town hall essentially with the employees of, or some employees of Twitter. This is going to be interesting. We've been keeping up with this story this entire time from when he had put out that poll talking about answering it honestly because it was going to have consequences. And of course, not too long after it was confirmed that he had purchased the most, basically, is the largest shareholder of Twitter. And what he, after that, Parag, I think is his name, the new CEO, had announced that he is on the board. Elon Musk, that is. So he has a seat at the table. And what that means is, he basically gets his eyes under the hood. Okay. Now, I mentioned before that I didn't care too much about how much people trusted him or what they thought he was going to do. I didn't even care to have that dispute. Don't even care to make predictions. All I knew was that there was going to be some conflict between and internally with Twitter, or people that are of Twitter, and Elon, because on a couple of different subject matters, they are different. And that the main thing is how they feel like this platform should be ran in terms of how it regulates what you can say on it. So just the mere idea that there is a guy that now has a position of somewhat power that is there is going to make them distraught. We covered the reports of the insiders, or rather the Twitter employees that were worrying. They were nervous because of this whole Elon Musk situation. And they said that all this progress that they had made, be it in moderation, which is what they talked. They were saying that they were ending like bigotry and all sorts of other stuff, when all it just has basically become an area where it's so slanted one way, man. It's painfully obvious. But they thought that they had made some strides into the moderation camp, and they thought that Elon Musk was going to threaten that. So basically, he is going to let these Twitter employees ask him everything or anything. And this is, I'm covering this from the New York Post. It says billionaire Elon Musk will attempt to calm anxious Twitter staffers and at an Ask Me Anything style town hall just days after his appointment to the company's board. He says Twitter CEO revealed the unusual plan in a company-wide email to to employees just days after Musk became the company's largest individual shareholder. Musk investment drew sharp criticism from Twitter employees who have questioned whether or not Tesla CEO's brash persona will hurt the company's culture or affect their day-to-day jobs. We say that Twitter is what's happening and what people are talking about right now. Often we at Twitter are what's happening and what people are talking about. That has certainly been the case this week. Following the board announcement, many of you, and this is coming from, again, the CEO, following our board announcement, many of you have had different types of questions about Elon Musk, and I want to welcome you to ask those questions. Musk has pledged to work with Twitter's top boss and other board directors to make significant improvements to the platform, and a Twitter spokesman, I don't know if it's a man or woman, whatever, spokesman, same thing, confirmed that the Musk town hall was in the works. And of course, the Washington Post was first to report it. And they says, the spokesperson said, can confirm Elon will join our CEO Parag for AMA with Twitter employees soon. We have nothing more to share. The prospect of the notoriously opinionated billionaire's involvement at Twitter spooked some employees. Quick question. If an employee tweeted some of the things Elon tweets, they'd likely be the subject of an HR complaint. Now, that's what you're worried about. One employee wrote to Twitter's internal Slack channels. According to Washington Post, are board members held to the same standard? No, they're not. And anybody that isn't a retard understands that the board, of course they operate. That's what makes them board members. They operate by a completely different set of rules than your just day-to-day employee that works there. That's not even news or anything like that. That's just kind of just what it is and what you certainly should expect. Another worker suggests that Musk's values were contradictory to those of Twitter. We know he has caused harm to workers, the trans community, women, and other with less power in the world. The fuck are you talking about? The employee said, how are we going to reconcile this decision with our values? You can quit. Does innovation trump humanity? I don't know where they're pulling that off. I don't know where they're getting, like, what news specifically that they're referencing, where they're talking about Elon Musk has caused harm to the trans community and women, whatever the fuck that means. But you can't quit. That certainly always is an option. As the Post reported previously, Musk board seat drew mixed response from Twitter employees on the anonymous corporate message board Blind. Some praised Elon for boosting their stock options and potentially loosening, quote, woke content moderation rules, while others bashed, and one employee described Musk as a racist demagogue with a God complex. Meanwhile, Musk is taking the polarized response in stride, joking about smoking weed during the Twitter board meeting. So I don't know if he's joking about smoking weed. He's more so joke is seeing his meme that was, I think it was on Joe Rogan, that he posted of him being at the next deal. And again, this is why it was so important. A lot of y'all focus too much on what you thought Elon was going to do. So everybody's edgy, right? And they go, well, I don't trust Elon. Who gives a shit, man? Like, it's not even relevant that you trust Elon. The only thing that matters here is that Twitter internally and the people that work for them have a perception of what they believe this man is. So that in itself is going to cause a reaction. A reaction that, as this article is documented, albeit irrational, but they feel some kind of way. They're nervous. I welcome that, of course, considering the direction that Twitter has gone, certainly in the last 5 years. So it's a shakeup regardless. It's still a shakeup. Even if it's just internal conflict, it is still a shakeup nonetheless. Even if it's not a direct policy change, it's still a shakeup. So it doesn't matter whether you like Elon, whether you don't like him, whether you trust him. That shit is irrelevant. It's completely irrelevant to the fact that, and what many have documented, people have a perception of him. People that work with Twitter have a perception of him. And often they think that he is that guy that is going to put a dent in a lot of their plans. That in itself is going to be cause for conflict. So you can sit back and see what happens out of that, because there is going to be certainly some conflict. I don't know what the hell is going to happen out of this sort of asking me anything deal. Nonetheless, this is still something worth keeping tabs on for those of you that know the user base of Twitter. And they, just with other forms of social media, the authoritarian left, they have basically gone unopposed, and they have had the adopted, authorized position to have on their many social media sites. Twitter being one of them, Twitter being one of the largest. They understand that in the event they change, which is what they were worrying about with this whole moderation situation, in the event that changes, their power is limited. They can't control the conversation as much as they previously had. Now, that's not to say that the policy in itself is going to change, but the threat of it is enough for them to feel some kind of way. So it's worth keeping up with, certainly. You just listened to a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake, which is live throughout the week at 12 p.m. Central on youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. Be sure to check out my website, ericdjuly.com, so you can stay up to date with everything it is that I'm doing. You can also become a member and get access to a bunch of cool perks and exclusive content, which includes a social media hub where you can interact with myself and other members. It even has an app that you can get, which is now live in the Google and Apple stores.